oh, it's nothing, but the whole time they never drove a truck before, you see. So it's like that's why some people could be alive because driving a truck can make some people feel like, oh, this is fun, but other people say, oh, I do this. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. So sometimes when people get things in danger, the whole time people can make things cracking in a certain way, and it's like it came from them, from their free spirit. So it's like you gotta fuck with people like that, you see. So it's like I might get to a level, and I do want to be big though, but it's like you have to be a certain way though. Like, see, that's what I'm trying to tell you. So, but for me, I have to protect Rome because I do have some gifts. But like people will think that I'm crazy because like you do want to protect Romy. Like if it's a big guy says, Romy, yo, you're my little soldier, that's it. You see, you'll be like, but if Romy like makes people happy, she should at least be happy. That's it. Happiness is a key if you can't get money. If you could have $1 billion but get stuck in the mud, that's how it goes. But if someone could be happy, some people aren't really happy like that. So it bothers people because they'll say, oh, I'm finna kill a nigga because, I get offended that I can't be happy. So like whatever makes people happy, if they drive in a truck and say, oh, I'm finna laugh it off, we're finna crack a joke and we finna ride together, that's when it makes people happy. Now you say that someone could destroy their soldier and say, Romy never drove a truck, never whipped it around, it could have got damaged. Sometimes you have to get people with a free mind because people will get someone who's always worried about what's next, always worried about what's gonna happen to their family, always worried about what's gonna happen, and that's why he always worried about they're gonna try to connect him to, the lead or the other people. And it's like, I don't want to connect to these people, but they'll say, oh, he's getting married upstairs, not aware that it's someone's behavior related to them telling people someone has to go to the hospital in the illness because they're some crazy person who got bitched up, and now they want to tell people, oh, I want to get married because you got married to the wedding. You see, you got taken to the school bus. So at what point did someone say, oh, he's scared of me? Ain't nobody scared of you or your family. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So it could get dangerous because, it is very dangerous, you see. But people will claim that their eyes was open at a certain time. So you got to think, what if someone try to put a boundary around people's nephew, around people's son, around people's child? It could get dangerous, you see. So you have to say, man, I'm finna stand counsel. But then people will try to get me out of counsel and then these people will be getting married saying that, oh, we didn't know, trying to scam people, you see. So the judge will find out and they'll say, oh, some judges don't really care, but at the same time, it matters my life. I can't just let no Indian stick me with a needle and say that, oh, he was crazy because these guys are getting married. And how are you getting married when you claim that you're scared of people, but you're trying to tell people you don't exist at a certain time when your story doesn't sound right? So people will be trying to get under people's skin through me, because they'll say that their eyes is open, but when they say that he has to go to an Indian daughter because you're scared of people, but yet you're trying to play the game in secret, and at the same time, when you claim he didn't know nobody, when you didn't make no deposit into his account, but you claim that you wanted to tell people that you existed the whole time, when the judge is aware that you tell people that you wanted to play the game. So, but now he has to go to the hospital because somehow you snitched on him with people who use the device, and now you looking shitty, and you want to tell people you want a lawsuit because you a big baby man, you see? But at what point did it matter? Because, I had to get it on camera, because it's like, what if someone was in a struggle? What if someone was locked in prison and he was about to get his arm chopped off? You would have to find some way or another to get into their hospital to get free, because people would say, thank you, Uncle Reese, I told you. They'll say that, you see. So they'll be like, oh, Maurice, they'll be like, oh, one way or another, I'm finna have to make my move to the thing. But if you don't have no car, you can't go there. So how would you go there? Just rent the U-Haul. They say, oh, he took it out of state. So it's one way or another you could get it. You could tell Mom, let me borrow your car, and then she'll say, oh, no, boy, he came back with no, boy. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So it will be cracking because they like, so kids have to be given, the reason why the kids like roaming is because they have to be given the ability to be free. So they'll say, oh, you don't do that, Uncle Reese. You don't, and I'm talking about Rito because they're the young ones, you see. Some people could say, oh, I could do that, but I've never seen them take that initiative. So I could talk about a lot of things, but I stay in my realm before people try to influence me outside of my realm. And if the boy is wrong, you see, he wrong, but it's like it could be dangerous. So at the same time, like it's one thing to be raw, but if you could ride with the family, and like my dad, he used to ride a bug, he used to climb up the tree to get the bananas, and people would think they have to be in society and a social border, but if you were born here, if you were raised here, then what makes you think you can't teach people how to protect themselves and how to be in a safe place, just in case an Indian doctor was trying to stick people with the needle? He's been through so many appointments, so many hospitals, that people will say, oh, I want to stick him with a needle because it's funny, you see? So people will say, oh, I want to stick people with a needle, but you don't want to stop marrying people with your free Indian spirit in the world. So eventually I could have married, like talked to a nice Chinese doctor who was made for the part, but instead people would try to scam me and say that we want to sit in his house for free. We want to have my first apartment when I was 15. So some people will actually even think that people are scared of them. Like they'll probably think like, oh, and it's like, I'm not really scared of people. Like you should get a job, you should get work. But now that I got $800 in money and get in my apartment, they get offended and say, oh, I want to make a business now because you want people to record you because you think you're playing the game in secret. Ain't nobody playing the game with you. No, don't try to harass me in secret and then use the lawyer to say, oh, nobody knows. That's all. Because I know being a man is tough, but sometimes you just have to fall in line. Because like you gotta realize, yeah, a garbage truck driver is the rawest nigga in the world, right? But if one basic NCAA football player comes, he's not going to be able to play that NCAA. So people might have been trying to scam me in a lot of ways, making me aware of things at a certain time. So I got no football is good, but you could get other boys. You could, but it's like people will get offended of each other. They'll get in angry that other people shine, and that's just the way it goes. Cause real man, unless there's a father around, they'll say, man, don't record me, Reese. I'm gonna be number one. Every child should want to be number one first and foremost, but then there will be family problems, family ties, family things, and they'll say, oh, it's not true, but this nigga is getting married to people saying that it's not true, that I heard about it, but the neighbor downstairs, why can't I be at peace in my apartment? I've lived here growing up. Why can't I live here for 10 more years before I don't have no kids, don't have no baggage, don't have no dead friends, don't have no nothing? So it's like, I know it's a tough thing to think, but it's like, when you want to love, when you want to live, I'm trying to live. So it's like I can't just be going to no Rogers Park with no Indian doctor. So eventually for me, I have $800 is a lot of money. And it's like I used to have my first job when I was 15, so I wanted to get my employment enrolled, but then the Indian tried to steal my identity, and then it causes problems with my family because they wonder what's going on, because they say that nobody existed when these guys are getting married, but they'll say they have no clue that what's going on when I have to build my life, because they'll say that he's crazy because they claim they existed the whole time, that people will say, oh, we wanted to steal his identity, but now when he talks to people to their face, it's a certain way, because it's a certain way he'll say, oh, I'm the buff guy, I existed the whole time, I hear him, but he's far away. You see, so I could get people on recording at a certain time. I have to be skillful, because there's been a lot of gangs involved, a lot of murderers, so people could say, oh, he's crazy, but when did I not have the hands? Like, when did I not get into it the way that people got offended? That's what I'm trying to tell you. So some people could say, oh, this nigga's a goofy. Like, that's what I'm trying to tell you. So you do have to stand counsel, because in real life, in the real hood, in the real Chicago, people could say, we tried that. We used to have a big Mako. We used to have somebody with a name, but in Chicago, you could have no name and have the best name. You can have a name and have the worst name, but still be a certain way. You see, so people will have God in them, but to be really honest, one guy will go to the Amish and Viking and say there was nobody from the West, right? He'll say it wasn't like that from the West, but he wasn't from the West where the sale came from, you see? So like people will be wrong, but like if you hear about people, they'll say, oh, we heard of Contreras, we heard of somebody wrong. So we got to keep that in counsel just in case people say, oh, I'm Muhammad Ali, oh, I'm a certain way. And you be like, hey, you ain't no more, you Indian doctor, you ain't no Muhammad Ali.
Love you, boy.
Love you, Mom. Love you too. I said, don't feel bad, Mom, because you said this can't grow, but your light skin, I don't want that head to grow, because it'll be a certain way. Well, Mom, pretty cool. So eventually, like Marvin, he's handsome, but like sometimes when it's a woman involved, like he could get most of the girls I date. Most of the girls I date, they love Marvin too. But like you gotta realize, like when you have social IQ, people don't really talk like that. You see, they're like a porcelain doll who doesn't talk to people. So it's like Romy, like she talks to people and she flows.
Only explanation I can give to Mom, I called them and asked them, you got any other doctors than him? And so they said, well, we have Dr. Kong. So you got Dr. Kong the 28th of June. So you have plenty of time to think about it at 2 o'clock.
Dr. Kong?
Yeah,
Okay.
Kong Lee. That sounds kind of cool.
Sound kind of cool.
That's the best I can do. Hopefully Mom won't yell at me.
Okay.
Alright, love you.
Love you too. So it's just like what if someone could harass me and then just have access to my home with the management? And it's like, it's not people's fault. They're not professional. They're not, they're not a doctor. So they're not aware of how things work in a behavioral hospital. Is that people will try to lock me up because they get so offended that I wanted to get married. And they'll release managements. They'll release, management to the office of the building. They'll release doctors, nurses. They'll release people with guns. And it's like, they don't realize that I went through this in my real life. Like, since 2015, I hadn't been hospitalized for 7 years, since 2017. But the thing was, when people started seeing me prosper with my videos and technology, they started getting offended because they did exist. Not just my family, not just the neighbors, but a lot of people harassing me, wondering about why my behavior was related to someone saying Dr. Khan, Dr. Khan. Because they'll claim that I didn't know nobody at a certain time when they try to put me in the hospital and say that their eyes were open at a time, but they didn't even live here in 2017, you see. So it's like they didn't live here in 2015, but I was getting harassed since 2004, before they were my neighbors, after 2015, after I was harassed in 2012. So people will say that I'm crazy, but then they'll say that their people are dead or killed, and they want to blame me because, it's a certain way that I have to stand for myself, because people's children will be funky. Their mothers will be big apes trying to get in my house like I don't even know you. So, but they do exist, you see.